I think as followers of Jesus, we're people who have what I'd call seasons of the soul, where there are times when it just seems like God's communication comes fast and hard. Like we hear God every day, our life is being deeply transformed from the inside out, and we're on a rocket ride of our faith. Oftentimes this happens soon after you come to faith in Jesus. God shows how real he is. But then there's other phases of the Christian life where it seems like God is just silent. Like I'm waiting, I'm watching, I'm yearning, but it's just hard to hear God. That's not necessarily an indicator that something is wrong with your faith. Sometimes God puts us through these desert seasons, in fact, to strengthen our faith and help us to yearn for, wait for, and watch for him. And when we are faithful to God, even when it's not easy, our faith gets stronger. And one of the ways, sometimes it's not easy if it seems like I'm not seeing or hearing God. But you can act in faithfulness during those times based on what we know God already has revealed. So you know that God speaks through the scriptures, and I would say don't discount that from the category of having heard God. You read God's word, you ingest it into your life. Oh man, it's the kind of thing that can be totally direction changing for your life. But if you go that intuitive, still small voice seems to be hard to hear at this time, sometimes that's a period that you go through. Now, I would say that there are certain disciplines that you can develop, certain spiritual disciplines that will enhance your ability to hear from God. So periods of prayer, periods of fasting, periods of silence and solitude will create the space for God to be able to speak in your life. That can enhance those moments for you. Now, it doesn't guarantee it, but it makes an environment in your soul that's conducive to hearing from God. I would also say that there are certain things that are blockers in your life to hear from God that I would say, okay, think about this. So one blocker is, do you have perpetual sin in your life? That you're saying, God, I'm just not going to do what you say in this area of my life. Perpetual unrepentant sin can be the kind of thing that blocks the voice of God. It makes it difficult to hear from God until you turn from that and say, okay, God, I'm going to live your way. The other thing that I would ask is, are there any promptings in your life that God has given that you would say, you know what, I have not obeyed God in that prompting? Like God told me to do something a month ago or a year ago or 10 years ago, and you decided, nope, I'm not going to do that. Well, if God reveals himself to you and tells you to do something and you refuse to do it, what are the chances that God's going to tell you the next thing to do after that? Right? It's pretty low chances. So I would say, is there unconfessed sin? Is there any perpetual disobedience that's going on in your life? Eliminate those things, practice the spiritual disciplines, and it creates more space to be able to hear from God and see what's going on with him. Last thing I'll do, I almost feel like this was a setup, because our series after Ordinary People, Extraordinary God is called Hearing God. So I'm kind of in the middle of preparing for that right now. We'll have a 5-week series of 5 different ways you hear from God. So if that's something you yearn for, and my guess is that's why you're coming to church, is you're a person who yearns to hear from God, that series is going to be a really cool series for all of us.